Right, okay. I don't know where you guys parked your car today, but I hate parallel parking, so I'm parked up in one of the city car parks. And as I was walking down here today, I thought, I remembered an incident that happened last time I was in the city in the weekend. I thought, if you come in the Saturday and I've got a ute, it'll be easy to get a park. And I've been driving round and round and round, and there weren't even parallel parks. And in front of me, there was this woman, and she had a car, and it had obviously come in from the country too, because it was covered in crap, and she had a little trailer behind it. So I'm driving behind her, and up there was a car park. So I saw her pull up and back the trailer in, and I thought, well, I don't have a road rage gene in my body. I'm just going to sit here politely. And I even waved to her as she parked in, knowing that she wasn't going to fit, because her car and trailer were this big, and the park was this big. And you know how magnanimous you feel when you're going to win. Anyway, so she well, you do. Anyway, so she puts the trailer in, and then she got out of the car, and she looked at the thing, and then she undid the drawbar and stood the trailer up on end and parked her car in there. Yeah, I went, shit. And then I thought, shit, that's pretty amazing. And yet, the strange thing, if I had said to her, you are a really creative thinker, she'd probably have said, no, I'm not. I'm not artistic in the least. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what I think creativity really is. Creativity is disobedient thought. I think I've got the coolest job in the world. I work with PhD candidates and master's candidates who in design. And these are some of our finest thinkers in the country, and they design the wheelchair that will take you up the steps. And they design wayfinding systems in airports, so it doesn't matter where in the world you are, no matter what language you speak, you can find your way to the toilet, you can find your way to the checkout gate, to the cafe. They design new systems of musical notation. They're extraordinary thinkers. And my office is not what you'd call really an office. It's got sofas and a big whiteboard, and oftentimes we'll sit down and then have cups of tea and talk through ideas. And a few weeks ago, we were talking about school, because I'm passionately interested with how we think. And something came out that gave me a hell of a shock. Almost all of them had had a terrible time at school. They had been accused of having short attention spans, being easily distracted, being unruly, or 2 or 3 of them were called special. Now, I don't mean special, I mean special. Like special needs, special. And I thought about that, and I remembered back to when I went to primary school. I went to Pukeatua Primary. Now, if there's anybody in here from Pukeatua Primary, I'm going to get hit, but I'm going to tell the truth. It was a crap schooling, right? Because in the 1960s, when I started school, there'd been this big revolution in New Zealand about education, and they said, well, look, let's get rid of streaming. There won't be group A, B, and C anymore. We don't want people feeling marginalized. And so in my class, we had lions and cheetahs and rhinoceroses. And I was the rhinoceros. I'm not being entertaining. I was the rhinoceros. I graduated as bin monitor from Pukeatua Primary. It was very, very basic. And why was I a rhinoceros? Well, I couldn't read or write. No, I wasn't dyslexic. I couldn't read or write. I couldn't read or write until I was 15. So I learned that I was stupid. I was really dumb. I was special, and my horizon was that far in front of my nose. And if you do not dance with the great gods of literacy and numeracy in schools, it doesn't matter how elegant, how beautiful, how passionate your mode of thinking is, whether it be visual or spatial or kinetic or whatever, it doesn't count. You have to read, write, and do the mental. And this happens. Some of you are the rhinoceroses. Some of the people you love are your sons, your daughters, your brothers, your sisters, your mum, your dad, your friends. And we squander this incredible resource, not just in this country, but all over the world, when we try to narrow down an understanding of what intelligence is. And, when I finished school, when I finished primary school and I got my little bin monitor certificate, I also got a learned to smoke Miss Douglas's butts out by the incinerator. I would say there was some perks to it, but anyway, I left school with a smoking habit, but I remember in my report there was this comment made on it, and it said he has almost no attention span, too easily distracted, and is a dreamer. And I remember what caused that. It was this. We used to have a thing called sustained silent reading. Do you remember sustained silent? Yes, we all remember sustained silent reading. Well, for a kid who can't read, that is sustained silent hell. Because seriously, for every day of a week, for every month of the year, for 6 years, you sit there with a book in front of you trying to find patterns in the white lines between the words. So there are labyrinths that you negotiate, and you wonder if it's a mountain stream, how it would be, and then you see if you can find people, and in the end, you get distracted. You do. And so this day I was looking up at the window, and there was this wasp crawling up it. And I was amazed, and I thought, how can a creature like that climb up a sheer, smooth plate of glass without suckers on its feet? How does that happen? And my teacher said to me, what are you doing? Well, rhinoceroses learn very early not to say. So I went, because you learn that it's not good to question, because if you ask a question, you will confirm your idiocy. And so I kind of lowered my head and go, get the spotlight off me, because that's what we teach rhinoceroses. And it's what, unfortunately, we teach ourselves, because questioning is the very source of creative thought. When we get into a cul-de-sac where ritual and formula do not give us the answer, then we begin to question this beautiful, beautiful human ability, probably the most precious thing to nurture. And if we don't question, if we just pursue formula, if we just pursue getting the boxes ticked, we end up with a system that is incredibly dumbed down. If I have a look at the origin of where the word creative kind of came into popular use, up until the 19th century, basically the verb to create was a kind of theological, mythological concept. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, or Aphrodite was created from the foam on the top of the waves. Lucky thing. So we got this idea that gods did this, and what human beings did was that we rationalized and we evaluated and we reordered and we understood, and we might try to find divine patterns, but we did not create. Christopher Frayling said creation was really the thinking of the gods. And then in the 19th century, with the rise of the Romantics, we got people going like Blake, who's really in your face. He says, I will not rationalize. I will not do that. My business is to create. Wordsworth talking about creative art requiring the attention of the mind and the heart. He doesn't say what I'm going to do is record. He actually believed that we could draw into being from nothing. Wow. Well, that's a pretty cool thing. And yet, we oftentimes, and I wonder if it's because when we first started owning that way of thinking, it was associated with writers and with poets and with artists. But it actually has nothing really to do with art. It has more to do with a woman who backs her car into a parallel space. It has to do, it's not some sort of sublime muse who comes flitting across the horizon and kisses the polished cheek of the three poets in the room. It's ordinary stuff. So that when you're in your second-story apartment and you drop the only pair of pants you've got out the window, you're not going to walk out there in your undies to get them. So you get put into a position and you go, whoa, how am I going to do this? Formula is not going to get you there, nor is humiliation. You go, I've got to find some way around it. Or you're cooking, and you need 8 arms to do this. And you go, well, maybe this. Lovely. This is a beautiful, beautiful nature that we have. Maybe that's why he lost his pants. Maybe she was using those things. I'm not sure. But we've got this wonderful human ability. So we go, all right, here's these people. Here we are. We have this ability to do it, and it's normal. It's not special, it's normal. And it's what, as a being, allows us to survive, because change always comes. And so we're flexible enough to find our way around it. And yet, we have a problem with schools, and we have a problem with organizations. I've managed organizations, I've worked in them, I'm sure just like you. And one of the things I realized really early is organization. It's no good in the TEDtalks standing up and going, as organizations, we need to be more creative. Bollocks. Organizations are not human. Humans are in organizations. Creativity, intellectual disobedience resides in them. My belief is that what we have to do is look after those thinkers, those people who can entertain more than one way. I look out here today and I think about that, the older or more obscure use of the word Catholic. I don't mean somebody who's quite keen on the Pope. I mean, the other use of the word Catholic means to be able to embrace a variety of ideas. To perhaps hold three quite conflicting ideas in the head and find the beauty in all of them. So a Catholic thinker, in my mind, is somebody who gives up a Saturday to come and sit in a room full of ideas. There's somebody who will stop looking at the TV or the movie or whatever and go online to just find ideas. They find the passion and beauty in ideas, and it's them. They're the people who are more likely to grow and support that kind of thinking in others. They're the people who make the great organizations. You get organizations who go, we're all going to sing from the same song sheet. We're right on target. We've set our KPIs. We've set all our stuff. And here we go, bang, 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 bang. Okay, and they press all the right buttons and they go to the top floor and never through the roof. Never through the roof. They're constrained. They're constrained by fear and power. And the two things get tangled up together. It's like, I once worked in a school where we went into a staff room and they said, everybody here, the one thing we do really well is we sing from the same song sheet. You're never going to get a choir if everyone sings from the same song sheet. You're not. You're going to get a very loud monotone. And it didn't matter. That place, like lots of organizations like Pukeatua, take on this idea that I'm going to get tweeted to hell, I can see. Take on this idea that if we set up, if we use the language of it, somehow we're doing it. But no, this is a very precious thing in each of us. It's a thing that we consciously have to take care of because it is dangerous and it's awkward to work with. The simple point is that ideas are not safe. And learning is not safe. Learning is not safe. Yeah? No education system should be thinking that learning is safe. Any education system, whether it's in a business or a school, that sets up parameters so we drown in this kind of toxic marshmallow of mediocrity and caution, it's like being suffocated by a nanny state. It won't get us forward. And so we end up with a situation where we have these organizations or schools that teach ritual and formula and are terrified of people trading beyond experience, trading beyond the experience of the school or the experience of the manager or the experience of the vision. And we end up with a ballet of Pavlov's dogs, just performance. And we reduce our system so low that we go, let's just assess ourselves on performance. What a heartbreak. I've just come back from some time over in Europe, and I went here to this place. And, on May the 10th, 1933, they burned 20,000 books. This is the Humboldt University. 1/3 of the staff from this university were fired. Some of them disappeared forever. Some were put into exile. Doctorates were revoked. What was that about? These were disobedient thinkers. The people who have been to this is the Einstein, Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. These are Marx. These are profound thinkers who've been through here. But they were wiped. Their stuff was obliterated. They burned it. And sorry, I get a little choked up over this, but in the place just out the front of it, there's the most moving memorial I've ever seen. And it's a hole in the ground. And it looks like this. If you look down, there are just white, empty bookshelves where once 20,000 books were. And the wonderful thing about it is, the students have a book fair there every week. I mean, this is wonderful defiance. But the thing that's really chilling is there's a wee plaque there. And it's a little piece written by Heinrich Heine. And he wrote this in 1802. Okay, this is 100 years before this happened. He said, where they burn books, they will eventually burn people. Over 100 years before this happened, he knew. This is a precious thing, this ability to disobey. It's not a bad thing. It's the precious thing that allows us as human beings to adapt and refine. And any organization that seeks not to do it, seeks to suppress it, whether you call that Pol Pot or whether you call that a cultural revolution or whether you call that fascism or utopia or fundamentalism, whatever you call it, it is the same thing. It is weakness and fear that feels that it has to hold on to a rigid way of thinking because if it doesn't, it might get exploded. And it will, because that is the wonder of thought. On my office wall, next to my bin monitor certificate, I have a wee piece of paper that one of my students gave me some years ago, and I'm a passionate man. I mean, I live my life by my heart, and I work with people who are passionate. And this little quote was by Oscar Wilde, and when I look at it, I remember something. This was a man who was given the chance to escape going to trial. He could have fled, but he didn't. He went to the court and he stood up and he talked about an idea that was an affront to a hypocritical and narrow world. He talked about a love that dare not speak its name. And he paid a terrible cost. But the thing that's interesting? All those people who condemned him, all those people who were outraged at the idea, their words are ashes blown away in the wind. We never remember them. Nothing. But we remember this. And he said this, of every guy who drops his pants from the second-story window, every person who backs a car in and puts the trailer up on end, every rhinoceros, every Catholic thinker, he said this, a dreamer is someone who can only find their way by moonlight. And their punishment is that they see the dawn before the rest of the world. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful, wonderful thing. Thank you.